I couldn't agree more. This does feel to me like a perfect film. And there aren't many things that come to mind for that.
If you think about it too, there's so many questions about this movie. Like, remember, he's like, who put their dirty drawers in my kitchen? Or why didn't Norris and the other guy turn McCready into one of them when they went to go check out the alien spaceship? Why didn't this happen? What is it? When did Blair get turned? Who was the silhouette? How long was he alone? Why did all these people go where they go? But those questions, I don't think it's the horror type of like, who's in that room? Like, these guys didn't know what was going on until later on, which then it was too late. The questions that this movie raises, they're not questions that are haphazard, I believe. I just think they're questions that are good questions. There's a lot of questions about this movie, but they're good questions. They're not mistake questions.
Right. They're not questions like, well, how the hell did this happen? They're more questions of, well, we, the viewer, are not in every single room that exists in the movie at all times. And so we just don't know everything. And we're curious. And almost everything that anyone has ever questioned about this movie, I feel like I've got 100 answers, and they're all reasonable answers. Mm-hmm. But I don't know the answer.
Now, I have another question for you. So you're watching The Shining. I guess I'll just you watch The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick went out of his way to disorient people. He didn't want you to know the landscape. But then there's horror movies where they want you to know every aspect of the house. Remember, Don't Breathe.
Like James Wan.
Yeah, James Wan, Conjuring, Insidious. Don't Breathe. Deep Blue Sea. I mean, Deep Blue Sea is great about letting you know the layout of everything. This movie, is it good? Is it to its detriment since it's all about paranoia that you don't? Because I didn't know the layout of this place at all.
So I feel like we learn the layout more as the movie progresses, but on an exponential scale. Because at the very end, we learned that it was basically one long hallway with just a bunch of rooms coming off of that hallway.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that until like the last 30 minutes of the movie, right?
Do you think that's good?
I never assumed that it was some huge compound, like there's only like 8 guys there. I never assumed it was huge. So is it to its detriment? Not necessarily. Does it offer a little mystique? Yes. Did it disorient me? Not really. Did I? But yeah, like if you're a new viewer, I can totally see where you don't understand where a lot of these things are. But again, yeah, the movie though, at the end in that third act, it really does give you a really good idea of the layout, because you see that it's basically one long hallway, and then you know that McCready has a shack, and then they have that secondary shack where they had diabetes.
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley. Yeah.
What was his name? Blair,
where they had Blair, right? And so like there were you later learn that, but I don't think it mattered. I don't think it was to the detriment of the understanding of the viewer. I don't think it was to the detriment of the integrity of the film either.
Yeah, I guess it didn't hurt or help, I would say.
But honestly, I feel like we learned more about the layout of this compound than we ever properly do, even about the simple layout of the house in Halloween.
Yeah, you never learn that.
It's not that complicated, but by the end, we know more about the layout of this compound.
Also, I was reading online, people have no idea. So this alien supposedly landed at least 100,000 years ago, which seems like it's from Star Wars, maybe a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, the technology from 100,000 years. But that alien either got jettisoned out or it crawled. But then some people are saying it's the pilot. Some people are saying it's a criminal that killed everyone on board. And who is this alien to you, John? Obviously, we don't know.
You mean like maybe the thing had overtaken the original occupants of that ship?
Yeah.
I never actually thought about that. And not that isn't interesting, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't either. I don't dismissively. I never thought about that. I always assumed it was the Thing's ship, but I can totally see how, yeah, like there's no reason for me to believe that. It could have totally overtaken it. Maybe the occupants of that ship were hunting it down and they crash landed on Earth. And it was after they crash landed on Earth that it was almost like the end of this movie where they're hunting it down and yeah, it crawled out and then maybe they just froze to death. That's actually an interesting, I never heard anyone say this. So
yeah.
This is very intriguing to me.
I was reading through all this stuff and I'm like, I gotta stop. Like, this is just way too much.
Did you find this like on Reddit or some articles people wrote?
You know me, man. I just go deep. I deep dive into everything. So you're on Reddit. I'm on IMDb. I'm on every message board. that Quora. Basically anywhere I could find articles, I kind of look into this film just as I have some free time. It's kind of nice. I have 3 weeks off between semesters, which is good. And also, so the beginning of the film, there's a dog being chased by these Norwegians, no, I'm joking. These Norwegians, not Swedes, and they're terrible with grenades. I love errant grenades, by the way. And so these Norwegians fail at killing this dog. The dog enters this American research facility, and the dog does manage to assimilate one person through the night. Do you think this dog or the creature, whatever it is, was annoyed when they brought back the other creature? Because that dog was living easy. It didn't have to rush anything in this situation, right? So when that other thing gets brought over from the Norwegian camp and infects Bennings, that kind of jig was up. It kind of, everyone realized something weird was going on. Do you think that dog was whatever was inside it was conscious of crap? They found that.
So there are a couple angles to this. The first angle is that they put the dog away for reasons that had nothing to do with that discovery.
Yeah.
And they put the dog away, and the dog immediately began infecting the other dogs. And remember when they found that? So that the movie would have hit the same crescendo just as soon anyway.
Why did the dog? So that dog got in there and started acting funky, and all the other dogs reacted. Did that dog have to start assimilating those other dogs? Because it was obviously risking being caught, and it died because of it.
Well, but just to back up though, again, like it didn't matter about the discovery from the original station.
Yeah. No, that's true.
That happened, and then that would have brought us to the same exact. Our protagonist would have been less knowledgeable about what was happening, but they would have known something really weird was happening, right? So, and then so this brings us to a question that I've always had about whatever this species is that we call the Thing. And that is that, so you're saying like, did it have to do that? It was risking discovery, this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
So if and it can like perfectly imitate people, right? It imitated, why can't I think, the guy who was balding with red hair and the beard.
Oh, Bennings.
So when it had Bennings, or no, he got grabbed. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. Who's a good example? Windows.
Yeah.
Windows. When Windows was behaving totally normally before it was revealed that he was infected.
Oh, no.
Totally normal.
Windows got his head. I'm sorry. Windows is the one who got his head bit off by Norris. No. Norris had a heart attack.
Not Norris. Palmer.
By Palmer. Yeah, when Palmer goes crazy. Yeah, he killed Windows.
But Palmer was someone who was behaving pretty normally, though.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's...
Okay.
Yeah. Palmer was... So... But in the beginning, sorry, go for it.
So he's infected though, and he's behaving totally normally. So it has the ability to behave totally normally, but we have to question biologically, is it doing this with a sentience or is it doing it like a computer program? Do you know what I mean? Like, does this thing, which begins on a cellular level when it takes over other organisms, right? Is it aware of what it's doing? It might not really be aware of what it's doing. And then when certain opportunities present themselves, it behaves in a very animalistic way. And so, like, some people might argue, oh, yeah, the Thing is acting like Palmer and doing this, that, and the other. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just keeping active all the things in the brain of that person to behave in normal ways. And then the chameleon strikes in the dark, if you will, when certain cues come up, and then the Thing takes over.
Yeah, you just made me go cross-eyed. That's
if the Thing was fully sentient all the time and well aware of its surroundings, in addition to being well aware of everything that its new host knew, it wouldn't behave in any of the ways we were seeing.
I think it was learning throughout. Would you say? So
it's already been on another world, and it's already been on a spacecraft, whether or not it had the knowledge to make it or it took over organisms that knew how to make it. So it's been exposed to very advanced thought processes.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like species where it was just some bacterium or virus on Mars that suddenly was put in modern Earth. This thing has been exposed to modern thought processes, civilizations, and technology. And that's why I say I wonder if it's aware of what it's controlling or not. Or if I'm the thing and I take you over, do I just choose to let you continue to behave as you until I take control because I'm an animal, because there's someone alone with me?
So there's no answer to that, correct, throughout as we learn this. But I guess we got to look at the blood, right? It knows enough to empty the blood, would you say?
Right. No, again, there are a lot of intelligent processes going on here. And so, yeah, like to what level is it controlling things? But yeah, that was a very decisive thing, right? And putting together a spaceship when it was in Blair, that is a very decisive thought process. But like to what degree is it really aware of what its host is doing? I don't know. This is where it gets really dodgy. Cause again, if you assume that this thing knows everything that its host knows, makes its host look like a perfect replicate, but it still has its goals, it would never behave in any of the ways that we're seeing in this movie. There has to be some animalistic cues. Maybe it just can't control itself under certain circumstances.
That's why I love this movie. It just, the actors didn't even know. So Keith David was talking, he's like, I wasn't, and at the end, he's like, I didn't think I was. And the actors didn't even know, how do you know when you are assimilated? Wilford Brimley didn't care. He's like, I don't care less. I'm getting paid to do my movie. But yeah, John, sorry I can't be more help on this. I guess this
is exactly what I mean when I say like I've got 100 answers for most people's questions about this movie, but I don't think any of them are right.
Well, it could be this,
or there is no right answer.
Someone's like, yeah, so here's a question, but here's 7 theories that people have, and you're like, geez Louise, 7 theories. And I mean, the problem is none of them are wrong, because we don't know what's right. So if that makes sense.
I have absolutely encountered theories, though, that I think are wrong, but I think it's more in the pathology of coming up with a theory and not necessarily that they're wrong about questioning a certain observation in the movie, if you will, right? Because some people come up with a theory and they just craft it poorly. But it doesn't mean that the reason they crafted it wasn't the right reason.
You want to learn something that I thought was pretty awesome from listening to the commentary when I learned something about this movie? Now, that led me to a couple theories.
Who's it from? Who
this is from
it?
the cinematographer. So on a new commentary that he did, Dean Cundy, he's the cinematographer. And in the Scream Factory I don't get paid for this. I'm just promoting it because it's a great Blu-ray. In the commentary, when everyone's tied to the table and they're doing the blood test, take a look at Palmer's eyes. Now, you look in the other character's eyes and there's a glimmer, and they lit that purposely. But then when you look at Palmer, there's no glint in his eyes. They're kind of dead. And so the cinematographer goes, look at this. And then they show it, and then we look at it, and he goes, yeah, we kind of threw that little bit in there. Now, at the end, I like thinking that Keith David, or Childs, and McCready, I just like thinking that they're both human, because I don't like either of them being a shifty little parasite.
I truly believe they are both human,
I do
by
too.
the way.
But the problem is that could lead you down an endless, rabbit hole, wormhole, black hole, Courtney Love album, hole. Hole. I was like, that sounds weird, Courtney Love's Hole, but the band Hole. So, or the new Bourbon Rabbit Hole. It's pretty good. The Rye's okay as well. But at the end, maybe because it's the lighting, but you don't see a glimmer. You see a glimmer in Kurt Russell's eyes, but you don't see one in Child. And so, he went away by himself looking for Blair, but but Blair was so busy dealing with the other 3. I don't think Blair would have had time to assimilate Childs. But since he told me that, and then I see the end, the guy doing the commentary, one guy was interviewing the cinematographer for it. He's like, well, there's no glimmer in Child's eye. And then the cinematographer backtracks and goes, well, we just wanted to be as ambiguous as possible. And look at where the light is in relation to him. He wouldn't have the breath. That's why you can't see his breath, but you can see Kurt Russell's because he's so close to the fire. So he's saying, he's like, we want to leave it ambiguous, but then the guy went, well, his eyes are dead, and then the cinematographer went, oh crap, like no, like he kind of backtracked a little bit, but that's like another theory I have. I never had that theory, but now I'm like, wait,
Right.
his eyes don't have that glimmer, so then this means that.
Right. Well, and again, a lot of people use the breath as the reason they know Keith David wasn't the thing. But actually, if you watch it carefully, you absolutely see his breath. It's just that Kurt Russell has the fire behind him.
Yeah,
so it shows
exactly.
so much more clearly.
Yeah, and it's just, that's what I love